key battleground is the United States, which welcomes so many survivors. If the genocide is ever to be recognized by the rest of the world, Armenians believe America must lead the way. Central to the Armenian case are America's own historical records. The documents sent by the American ambassador warning that Armenians were being exterminated.
What we're asking for is an affirmation of the historical record of the United States from that era that clearly records and substantiates the fact that a genocide was committed against the Armenian people. Well, America owes it to itself to recognize its own record. The diplomatic files are so extensive and so thorough that we base our knowledge of the Armenian genocide in the main on what the American diplomats reported. And in this respect, affirming the Armenian genocide as a historical event is nothing more than recognizing one's own history, a piece of American history.
To try and make that happen, the Armenians pressed Congress to vote to recognize the genocide. The Armenian lobby had a strong weapon: votes in some key congressional districts.
The November elections were coming up, and there were some hotly contested races, in particular one in Southern California, where the local Armenian American community could have made a difference.
The Clinton White House was known to oppose the move, despite the fact that Bill Clinton had at one time promised to use the word genocide. But Congress pressed on.
The House clearly had moved to the point where the majority of U.S. representatives had come to recognize the facts for what they were and were quite ready by that point to adopt a resolution affirming the U.S. record and recognizing the Armenian genocide.
Whether they accepted the facts or wanted the votes, there was now growing momentum for genocide recognition. The news was met with anger in Turkey, which dispatched a cross-party delegation of MPs to lobby Congress.
We told them that this was an absolutely unjust, inaccurate, and unfair resolution. No business of Parliament to pass a resolution like this. We went into the...
What was their response when you said that?
A lot of them actually confessed and admitted that Parliament, that a Congress should not be dealing with something that deals with history.
The congressmen may have listened to the Turkish arguments, but with the first important vote at subcommittee level approaching, those pushing genocide recognition were increasingly optimistic.
I think the longer that the members of Congress heard the Turkish MPs talk about the fact that in their opinion there was no genocide, or this did not exist, it never happened, the more the vote swung toward those of us that were wanting the recognition. And so in what they had hoped to be a very close vote ended up being a larger, quite a swing in favor of the genocide recognition bill that we were seeking as a result of the Turkish testimony, because they really are in denial.
The subcommittee voted in favor of the resolution, paving the way for a vote before the full Congress.
I was very upset, of course. I thought it was really pathetic that legislators who clearly didn't even have a passport and had never traveled anywhere in their lives were voting on something that they knew nothing about.
On the morning of the vote, the congressmen sponsoring the bill did their final tallies.
It was optimistic, the atmosphere, because we essentially were whipping, which means we go to individual members and ask them how they're going to vote. And I was convinced that we had well over 300 members on a bipartisan basis that were going to vote for this, which is a huge, maybe even two-thirds majority.
After years of campaigning, it looked as if the slaughter and deportation of the Armenians was at last going to be recognized as genocide by the legislators of the most powerful nation on earth. And then, with literally minutes left on the clock, something extraordinary happened.
The vote was coming up in the evening, and we were heading over with our staff to begin the debate, which would lead to this vote. And as we were walking up the steps of the Capitol, one of my staff members got a phone call from the Speaker's office.
That morning, the White House caved in to Turkish pressure. President Clinton called the House Speaker and asked him to withdraw the bill. Clinton's message to the Speaker was extraordinary. He cited grave national security concerns. He believed passing the resolution could endanger American lives.
By the time we got to the top of the stairs into the House chamber, they were already into other business.
And your genocide resolution was gone.
Never happened. Yeah.
So what exactly scared the leader of the free world? The answer lies in the dangerous politics of the Middle East. Here, the Turks are allies who provide air bases vital for patrolling the skies over Saddam Hussein's Iraq.
So what was it, do you think, was said by the Turkish government to make him cite grave national security concerns?
Well, I don't really want to say that it was really what we have said. Of course we have said the same things.
National security, I think they also talked about American lives potentially being at risk.
That detail I do not remember, but certainly grave consequences or implications and security rights were there. But, you know...
so what do you think? What do you think it meant, grave national security concern?
To me, if you really want my personal point of view, I think it was President Clinton's very good foresight and appreciation and evaluation of Turkey's position in the region and the value that they attach to our friendship and collaboration as a NATO ally.
Well, they were making all kinds of threats. They were saying that American soldiers were going to be in jeopardy in Turkey. You know, that the Turkish government always acts as if they're benign and their citizens are about to revolt over this issue. In other words, it's not that we have a problem if you bring up the resolution, but there are going to be demonstrations in the streets, and American tourists and American soldiers in Turkey are not going to be safe anymore, which is, to me, total garbage. I don't buy that. It's the government that is taking the position not to recognize the genocide.
But with a new president, the Armenians would have another chance. George W. Bush had made a campaign promise. The Armenians were subjected to a genocidal campaign, he'd said. If elected president, I would ensure that our nation properly recognizes the tragic suffering of the Armenian people. That was before he came to power and before his campaign against Saddam Hussein. George Bush badly needs the help of the new Turkish government. America wants to launch a land invasion of Iraq from Turkey.
You're a strategic ally and friend of the United States. And we look forward to working with you to keep the peace.
On the one hand, they speak about the human rights, their commitment to human rights, and on the other hand, you see, they fail, for political reasons, to recognize the genocide.
The smarter countries and the smarter people in those countries realized cooperating with Turkey and achieving stability and balance in this region was really important for all of our mutual common good. Unfortunately, others with small petty concerns didn't realize this.
The West has traditionally encouraged Armenia and then not been there when they need help. So there's no reason why they shouldn't feel betrayed. They were betrayed.
The last survivors are scattered far from their homeland. They know there's little likelihood the world will recognize the genocide while they're alive. What is left for them? Anger and bewilderment.
Sometimes I stay overnight and think why people do things like the way they did it. We didn't harm anybody. We built the country. We worked for them. I mean, we paid taxes. Why they did that to us?
I will wait for the day they acknowledge it. I pray for other governments to help us. Nothing else. What else can I do? After I die, I will be finished. But I wait for that day. I will wait till I die to hear them say, yes, we did it.
The campaign against the Armenians was the first in a century that would be defined by genocide. The very law on genocide was framed by a man who'd been profoundly affected by the tragedy of the Armenians. Raphael Lemkin believed genocide was a wound against all humanity. It is denial which ensures the wound can never heal.
You can comment on tonight's programme by visiting our website at www.bbc.co.uk/correspondent.